Here we have two different versions of my D series, and this is my Daily Driver 1, my Daily Driver 2. They both have two completely different engines and different drivetrain setups. We're going to compare just to see which one comes out on top, or if it even makes a difference. You might find the results shocking, so let's get into it. So on our first Gabriel D series here, we have a 4.1 inline-6 engine. Yes, a 4.1 inline-6 powering this massive truck. I know, it's kind of odd. And to make it even more interesting, we're actually running an all-wheel drive system with only a rear diff locker. So if you look up here to the top right of your screen, you'll see the torque curve for this engine is roughly 225 pound-feet of torque, and the horsepower is right around 200, maybe 180. So the things that I have added are the different rim style with regular tires. Although they say grip all, they are just standard tires. I added the cab lights to it, and I added a 6-speed transmission. Being that there are not many engine upgrades to the 4.1, I couldn't add very many things to it. Now our diesel buddy here, on the other hand, is running a V8 6.0-liter turbo diesel with a stage 2 turbine. And let me tell you, the whistles are amazing. However, both trucks are running a stock layout exhaust. So if you look at the top right of your screen, you will see that this 6-liter diesel is making roughly 620 pound-feet of torque, and the horsepower number is right around 300. Now on this engine, we could choose to actually turn it up if we want. That thing you can't really tune. Now on this one, I decided to go with a dually truck with off-road suspension like I did on that one, but the springs on this one are different because this is a solid axle front, not a independent suspension front like that one is. And on this one, I am just running the stock 5-speed transmission, and we are not running auto locking hubs on the front. So the front will just be switching tires every time it tries to grip up. And on this truck, we also have the added benefit of having 4-wheel drive high and 4-wheel drive low. Now, since we didn't choose to do all-wheel drive, we do have the added benefit of having 4-wheel drive, which means that at least 3 of our tires will be spinning at all times if we need it in the front. So in case you were wondering, this is what the setup looks like underneath of this truck with the independent suspension. Very minimal, not much to it. And as you can see on this one, we actually do have the solid front axle with the upgraded shocks and off-road suspension on the front and rear. And I believe we even have upgraded leaf springs. On this one, I chose to also add the lights, and I also went with the upgraded mirrors for the heavy-duty truck. By the way, this truck is a 5-speed manual transmission, and this truck is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Okay, now that we actually have the informational part of the video out of the way, let's go ahead and put them head-to-head. Disclaimer, sorry if I missed anything in the informational part you guys might notice later that I didn't bring up. Just remember, I'm not perfect, I'm human. So here we have a chain, and we're going to connect this up to both trucks. This is really going to test to see if it makes a big difference on our engine options and our drivetrain options. We're going to do our first test run without the lockers, and then our second test run with the lockers, and we'll put this thing in 4-wheel drive high, because that thing is already all-wheel drive. Then after we see what happens, we'll go ahead and throw on the 4-wheel drive high and the lockers on both vehicles. Well, we're definitely going to have to reload the game. It decided to take a crap on me. Well, let's go. Okay, so it actually looks like the diesel's losing because it's only able to spin 1 tire. I guess technically 2 because it's a dually. However, the 4-wheel drive system on this thing, or all-wheel drive system, is able to let it actually split the torque between 2 different tire sets. So that's the added benefit of this, even though we're making way less power, by the way. Alright, we're going to go ahead and throw this on 4-wheel drive high, turn the locker on this one, and we'll go ahead and run this back. And here we go. Okay. Let's actually help this thing a little bit. Well, I guess it's not able to do that, is it? So I wonder if this would be the same if we actually started with the other truck. Let's try this again. We'll start it with this one. So right now the score is 1-1. Let's start with this truck and see how it acts. Okay, so earlier, if you remember, I was telling you, we don't have lockers on the front. So what that means is we only have 3-wheel drive all the time, technically, not 4. But if I was to turn here, you'll see the other tire will start spinning and this one will stop. It does kind of spin, but nowhere near as fast. And as you can see here, we're pretty much tied up. I just let off the throttle and blipped it back on, and it's still actually out pulling the diesel. It might be minuscule, but it is doing it. Surprisingly. I don't think the transmission's probably doing too good either, though. But it is actually winning. Okay, I'm sure this will go on forever, but I'm not trying to sit here for 10 minutes. So it turns out the straight six is actually more than capable of what it needs to do, given that it has the right drivetrain. Because if you were like me, you probably thought this thing was going to win, but I didn't take into account that maybe the 6-speed transmission on this thing is actually helping it out along with the split drivetrain. Let's do some more testing. So on this next test, we're going to be testing flexibility and the suspension travel of each vehicle. Okay, let's see how this goes. Get the front up in here. Okay, that's actually a pretty good amount of flex here. So our tire is up off the ground. However, we have a lot of suspension travel, more than I thought we would. But it's not looking too bad. Beautiful. Going over here. Look at that flex in all the systems. And then we got a little set here. Not too shabby. Okay, it's time for the other one. So being that this one's basically a 2500, I'm going to imagine that the suspension's a little bit more stiff. Is that true? Not really. It's actually probably better. We actually have contact points at every corner. However, it is a solid axle in the front, so maybe that's helping. I don't know. But if you look here, we got lots of flex in the rear and lots of flex in the front as well. I would actually beg to differ that the front end on this thing has more travel in it than the independent suspension on the other truck. Let's go ahead and show you guys some more of that. I'm actually very surprised, being that it's a dually. And then the small ones. Okay, that completes the suspension flex. So in this next test, we're going to be actually running over some rumble strips and seeing how the suspension soaks up bumps. We're going to be rolling around 40 miles per hour in this test. Not too bad. Kind of jumping them, but it is soaking up most of the bump damage. Okay, let's try the other one. This one might actually do better than I thought, considering the last test it had a good amount of flex. It's not too bad. It's probably about the same, actually. I figured that it would be a little bit different, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay, so on this test, we're going to be comparing them head-to-head on a drag race. Let's just see what happens here. Okay. Well, it's no surprise here that the one that makes more torque and power is probably going to be the winner. By a long shot, by the way. That's quite a few car lengths there. Okay, that was an easy win. So on this next test, we're going to be putting a load in each one of the beds, seeing how they fare up the 30% grade hill, and then we'll actually pull a trailer, load it down with wood, and see which one does that better. So we're just going to come right up to the bottom of this hill and see what happens. This is going to be a two-wheel drive high, no locker. Okay, as expected, no problem. Okay, same deal with this one, no locker, but it is all-wheel drive already. Yeah, it's starting to lug down right there. And it does seem to make it, though. Just barely. So this thing's probably not going to fare too well with the trailer, but only time will tell. In case you're wondering, this is going to be the 40-foot bumper pull with 23,000 pounds. Okay, so here goes the first truck, and we're going to keep it in two-wheel drive high with no locker. Kind of wanting to go off track here. Well, it's kind of making it. And starting to lose traction. Actually spinning one tire now. Okay, not looking good. So let's see if we can do it in four-wheel high. So far, so good. I'm thinking it's going to need that locker. Yeah, probably. Okay. Oh, God. So here we are with the locker, and hopefully it can actually do it. Looking good so far. Okay, so it can't even do it with that. The only option left here is four-wheel drive low. Beautiful. But first we'll do it without the locker in 4 low and see if it is able to happen. If not, we'll go ahead and throw the locker on. And as you can see, not all 4 tires are actually spinning, because we don't have a front locker. Alright, now we are locked in with the differential and 4 low. Okay, so it looks like this vehicle is not going to be able to make that happen. I will give both vehicles a chance in their maxed out form of lockers with a running start and see if it can actually even do it. This is looking promising. Well, I take back what I said. It's not going to happen. So here we have the inline 6 model without the locker on, only with the all-wheel drive system that it runs. This thing is pretty quiet considering it doesn't have that V8 rumble. Yeah, not looking good. So it may not surprise you, but just to say that I did it, we're going to go ahead and throw the diff on. It's like racing with a herd of turtles. Yeah, not happening. So just like the other truck, we're going to give it the benefit of the doubt and give it a little bit of a head start run with the locker on. Here we go. Didn't make it much farther. If anything, it probably did worse. Okay, it looks like this thing can't even make it to the 30% mark. The other vehicle was at least able to make up about halfway. So in conclusion to this test, the V8 diesel definitely had a lot more low-end grunt to be able to make it up farther. However, neither one accomplished the end goal of making it to the top of the hill with a trailer. Without the trailer, both trucks being loaded down with 3 heavy logs, this truck actually made it a lot quicker and had a lot more confidence with it. This one was kind of luggy and just barely made it. Mind you, it made it barely in all-wheel drive. This thing made it without a problem in two-wheel drive. So in this next test, we're just going to be doing a general off-road course. And this is going to test the flexibilities and the maneuverabilities of each vehicle to see if it can actually even handle a pretty mild trail here in the desert. So we're going to put this one in four-wheel drive high, and we'll just leave the locker off. I'm not going to be too specific with how fast I'm going or anything, just pretty comfortable. For being a 2500, this thing sure does have some comfort to it. As you can see, pretty flexible, which is very appealing to the eyes. Nice. Oh, we almost missed that. We're not doing too bad, actually. No damage to the truck at all whatsoever. Actually making it through the course pretty quick, too. Again, it's comfortable, so I'm not actually having to slow down, and we just made our first mistake. Dang it! That's alright, this thing's tough. I think it didn't really, I don't think it really messed with the steering. Okay, maybe it did just a hair, but not significant. More or less just fender damage. Almost went off the side there. Good thing the dual wheels kept us going straight. Definitely, I'm liking the sound of this one a lot more than the inline 6. Not too bad. And it's actually able to make these turns pretty good as well. Ooh. Okay, I thought I was going to hit the rock there. Luckily, I did not. Okay, so it made that without any problems. Well, I say any problems, but we actually hit a rock. However, it didn't do much to prevent us from completing the course. Now we're going to try the all-wheel drive inline 6. I would assume it'll be just fine, however, we do not have all-time four-wheel drive. So that might hinder us just a little bit. But right off the rip, just feelings alone, I think since it weighs less, I'm actually able to toss it around a little bit easier. I don't know why, but this thing just feels so much longer. They're both long bed four-door trucks. I don't know why this one looks longer to me. Maybe not to you guys. But so far, the off-roading is going pretty well. I'm actually able to carry this one with some speed, just like the other one. But it does kind of bug me that I can't really hear the engine very much. So far, we have not taken any damage. So I will say, the flexibility on this just doesn't feel quite as good. I thought that the independent front suspension would be better, but I'm actually going to take back my statement because it almost feels stiffer on the front end. Like, you can clearly see it when I'm going over bumps. It doesn't soak up the bump damage as much as I would like. Yeah, it just kind of hops and skips over stuff. Meanwhile, the rear end actually flexes over everything. But it is also making the course with zero effort. As it turns out, this inline 6 has just enough torque to do everything it needs to do, as I stated prior to this test. Okay, I made it through the whole entire course with zero damage. And again, since it felt lighter, I think it actually did maneuver better. On this next test, we're going to be trying to hit the vehicle's dead center of the cab, and we're going to see how each one fares to the amount of damage at a 60-mile-per-hour roll. We're going to be starting it off with the diesel, just because I feel like it'll carry more momentum. So we've hit 60, and now we're just going to carry it around that point. Right at the center of the cab. Perfect. Couldn't ask for a better hit. So as you can see here, the cab has shifted quite a bit. I didn't expect it to be that bad. But is it still drivable? Interesting, it is. Oh my goodness, look at that. It looks so stupid. That's why I love this game. You can do anything you want to a car and it'll still somehow work. But overall, drivability-wise, it's not too terrible. As you can see, the chassis kind of turned and twisted a little bit, but for the most part, the bed sustained very little damage. It looks like it all just went right down into the cab. And this truck fared not too bad, probably pretty much what you would expect. But drivability-wise, has zero issues. Now let's swap out the trucks and reverse rolls. We're probably going to have a little bit longer stretch of road for this thing to reach this 60-mile-per-hour limit. Okay, let's get this going. Hopefully it can actually reach 60 before we get to it. Yep, okay, we've reached 60. Now we're going to try to steadily hold it here. Hit the center of the cab, best as possible. Okay, not too bad. So if we look here, is it able to drive? Yes, it is able to drive, but the same thing pretty much happened. So it looks like the chassis overall did the same thing here. And the cab took a little bit less damage, actually, when it comes to shifting. It's actually not as far over as the other one was, I don't believe. Same thing here with the bed too, very minimal damage. It did get lifted up quite a bit, but that's all. But I'd say it took either the same amount of damage or just a little bit less. Now that could be due to the extra weight helping it, or the fact that it's getting hit by a lighter vehicle, or both. And the story with this one is pretty much like the other one. It is still effortlessly able to drive. Not even a problem with the steering, it goes straight. But the same amount of damage, maybe a little more. But I'd say it's about the same on the front end damage as the other one was. Let me know if you guys made it this far into the video, and if you have, comment the word tire. That lets me know if you guys are actually staying engaged or not. So in conclusion, the straight 6 does have enough power to do what it needs, and it can actually do a little bit more than I thought it could, especially knowing that it out-tows this thing in a tug of war. However, it does lack in the torque department, and I don't know if that's because it's splitting the torque between the all-wheel drive system in it, or if it's just not enough to do heavy pulling. On the V8 model, does everything exceptionally well, as it should. But again, it did surprise me that the inline 6 was actually able to out-pull this truck in the tug-of-war section. My last question to you guys, which one of these would you take home with you right now, as it sets? For me, I think I would still take the diesel pickup, mainly because I like the aesthetic looks of it better, and for a big truck, it actually looks like it rides pretty comfortably. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like. If you want to see more of this content, or just check out my channel, go ahead and subscribe and see what I have to offer. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good evening.